So you've spent months researching how to move to Spain, what visa might be right, what immigration pathway, or maybe you're just dreaming and kind of learning about all the options. And then Spain goes and passes a huge immigration law update and really changes many of the different immigration routes that people use to move here. I've gone through the relevant parts of the law with the immigration lawyers that I work with and recommend to pull out the key points that I think are going to be relevant for you guys, for the Spain Revealed audience. So just to zoom out first, before we get into the details of what has changed, this law proposes, according to the Spanish government, to bring more clarity and consistency to Spain's often chaotic immigration procedures. So I've pulled out 3 of the key immigration routes that this law impacts. So those are the non-lucrative visa, the student visa, and residency for family members of Spanish citizens. Now, I think one thing that's really important to say is that this law is really fresh. It's just come into effect, and lawyers that I'm speaking to saying already that they're seeing inconsistencies and issues with it. So I would expect that we're going to see updates to this law in the coming weeks and months. So if you want to get on the list to receive those updates that I send, that information, then just head to spainrevealed.com/subscribe and you get on the list, then you'll get my Move to Spain newsletter updates. Okay, so the non-lucrative visa. Now, this is a really popular visa for many people to move to Spain, especially those who are moving to Spain to retire, but you don't have to be retired to use this visa to move here. Effectively, the idea behind it is you need to show that you have sufficient passive income or savings to come to Spain to live here without becoming a burden on the state. So yeah, often used for people retiring or early retiring. I see a lot of people in my courses in their 50s who are able to retire earlier in Spain than say back home in the States or Canada, and also used for people who want to take a sabbatical for a year or two and move to Spain and live off passive income and savings. Now, this visa hasn't been majorly impacted by the law, but there are some details that I think if you're curious about this route or looking at it, that are helpful to know and important to know because it'll just make sure that you're more likely to be set up for success. Now, the first one is it's been left 100% clear that the non-lucrative visa is not for people who are planning to work in Spain. There's a long history of this visa sort of pre-COVID actually being used by people who were moving to Spain to work remotely. But now the new update makes it 100% clear that this visa is for people who are moving to Spain who are not going to be carrying out any work, any professional activities. Remember, if you're planning to come to Spain to work remotely, the visa you want to be looking for is most likely the digital nomad visa. Now, heads up for those of you who are looking at the digital nomad visa, this immigration update has not impacted the digital nomad visa. So that's a different law and it stays how it is. So there's nothing in this new law that changes anything with the digital nomad visa, just for clarity. Okay, point 2 on the non-lucrative visa. This law has made it very clear what sort of bank or financial information you need to provide to the consulate when you apply for this visa if you are going to be using funds in an overseas bank to show that you have savings or passive income to support yourself in Spain. It's quite common when people apply through the non-lucrative visa that they, say you're moving from the US, you want to show that you have funds to support your life in Spain. So you show, bank accounts that prove that, showing regular, say, pension checks or with savings. And the law has actually now been very specific in terms of what the requirements are that you have to show from that bank account. I'm going to read them out here. So you need to show the full name and address of your bank, any account identifiers, account numbers, information like that, the opening and, if applicable, closing date of the account, so when the account was opened. I presume here they want to make sure that an account wasn't just recently opened and money was funneled in from, say, a family member or something like that. They also want to show the balance as of or as at December 31st of the previous year, plus the average balance over the previous year. So my tip here is, you want to make sure that you follow the rules really clearly, that you have the bank information that the law requests. And as always, if you're confused about this or you're not sure, it can always be helpful to work with an immigration lawyer, immigration firm who can handle your application for you, or consult with them and give you feedback on what might be the best way to approach this. But just make sure you get your banking information right. Now, the third element of the non-lucrative visa that I wanted to point out is that the law now specifically talks about and authorizes the immigration department to check on an applicant's criminal record or potential criminal record in Spain. If you are moving and you had previously lived in Spain and potentially had something on your criminal record from that previous, life in Spain, the immigration department and the consulate are going to be able to access your record and see that. Now, just a heads up, obviously this is probably not going to apply to most people, but just something to be aware of. Next up, under the non-lucrative visa, so the law has made it 100% clear that in order to renew your non-lucrative visa, you have to have been living in Spain at least 183 days per calendar year in the period before renewal. Now, the reason for this is Spain wants you to become a tax resident. And effectively, once you're living in Spain for more than 183 days in a calendar year, you become a tax resident, you pay tax in Spain, potentially wealth tax, etc., etc. So this previously was the case. It actually hasn't really changed anything. But what happened is how this rule was effectively enacted previously was not in an official law like this. It was in another format. And there was a court case that effectively struck down the rule. So the government has come back and put it into this law so that now it's 100% clear that you must stay in Spain. You must be living in Spain for 183 plus days per calendar year if you want to be able to renew your non-lucrative visa. And the last point I wanted to talk about the non-lucrative visa is unmarried couples. Now, it has often been challenging for couples to move to Spain under, say, the non-lucrative visa if they are not married and not in some sort of registered partnership or civil union. It was always like you had to show a lot of documentary evidence. And it was always sort of a matter of degree of whether it would be accepted or not, and it was often challenging. The law now makes it clear that if you can show that prior to making your application for the non-lucrative visa, you have been living together for 1 year before obviously making the application, then you can be considered a couple for the purposes of this visa. Now, obviously you're going to have to show proof of that 1 year. You're going to have to provide, lease documentation, you own a house together, but at least we have more clarity on how this works. Okay, next up, the student visa. Now, student visa might sound like something that only applies to students, and that's not the case. This is a visa that has long given people a route, and a pretty kind of easy route to move to Spain, to kind of dip their toes in and come. It doesn't have high financial requirements, to come for, say, a year or two, see if Spain is right for them, and then potentially go home, or then potentially look for a job here and modify their visa and get a job and actually start living a life here, have a long-term plan. And so the student visa has been really handy, and it's for people of any age. You don't have to be of student age or anything like that. And it's always applied to people who were, say, coming to Spain to do a language course, to learn Spanish or practice their Spanish, or also those who are coming to do a PhD, a master's, continuing education. But there are some pretty big changes within this visa. There's a lot going on in the student visa section of the law. And the key distinction that I want to make, and that the law makes, is that it distinguishes those students who are going to be doing higher education studies, such as university degrees, master's, PhD, or doing some sort of professional formation, and those who are doing not higher degrees, i.e. those who are coming to do a language course to learn Spanish or coming as language assistants. So first of all, this isn't going to affect many people in this audience, but it creates a minimum age. Effectively, you have to be 18 or older to be able to come on the student visa. I don't think that's particularly relevant. I don't have a lot of 16-year-olds watching this channel who are looking at moving to Spain, but I wanted to use this opportunity just to clarify that there's no upper age limit to come on a student visa. You could be 63 and you want to come to Spain for a year to learn Spanish and just explore the country. That's 100% fine. A student visa can apply to you. You don't have to already be a student per se back home. Now, people who are coming to Spain to study Spanish were previously able to apply for the student visa within Spain while on a tourist visa. And that has changed. Effectively, if you want to come to Spain to study Spanish, you have to apply it through your consulate back home. So there is less flexibility. And the second limitation is that if you're coming to Spain on a student visa and not doing high-level studies, if you're doing, say, a language course, effectively your time here in Spain through the student visa route is capped at 2 years. So if you are coming to study Spanish, you can do a course for a year, and then you can renew to do another year, but then you can't keep renewing. You could go home and obviously then apply through a different visa route, etc. But it does limit your options once you're already in Spain here on the student visa. And the other thing is after that first year, to renew for a second year, you have to pass a language proficiency exam, which previously wasn't the case. Effectively, it's limited the options and the length of time that those who are coming to study Spanish in Spain can stay in the country on that student visa. And another limitation that's come in is that previously you could come study Spanish in Spain, and then after you'd completed your degree, there were options for you to then change to a work visa and start working in Spain and start to build your life. That is no longer available for people who aren't going to be doing these higher level degrees. So again, if you're coming as a language student, you don't have the option to modify your visa status to a work visa, which is a real shame. And I'm really surprised that the government has done this. And actually a lawyer I spoke to said that they pointed this out at one of the conferences where the government presented this law, and the representative of the government didn't even realize. They were like, oh, that's a good point. Maybe, kind of like, maybe we shouldn't have done that. We've taken a note. So this is why I say expect potential changes to this law. I'm not saying there's going to be necessarily a change to this one, but I'm surprised that why would you not want smart people who are here, learning Spanish to then be able to stay, particularly in a situation where the country is looking for working age migrants who can come here and contribute to the economy and to the tax base. So I'm really surprised. Hopefully that one changes. But just to be clear, there are a few options if you're here, say doing a language course. There is the highly qualified visa, which is for highly qualified workers. There's also the entrepreneur visa. People sometimes also ask, could I apply for the digital nomad visa while I'm in Spain on a student visa? Some people have been approved. We're also seeing some people get denied who are trying to make that change. The reason potentially being is that to apply for the digital nomad visa, you have to show that you've been working for a period of time and show income so that you can support yourself in Spain as a remote worker. Now, if you're here as a student or here on a non-lucrative visa, you don't have authority or permission to work. So you're effectively showing that you've been in conflict with your current visa situations. Now, another aspect related to work, and there has been confusion about this, effectively, if you are in Spain on a student visa and you're doing, higher level studies, then you have automatic work permission. You can work up to 30 hours per week. But if you're here doing a language course, you do not have permission to work in addition to your studies. You can request that permission, but you have to get specific authorization for that. Now, the next one that is also a bit disappointing is that those who are coming and not doing higher level studies, you can't bring your family with you. Now, previously, this was the case that a student coming to Spain could show that they can support their family and bring them as well. Now, unless you're doing high level studies, you can't effectively bring your family to Spain. They would have to apply for their own visa to move to Spain. The other thing, and I see a lot of confusion about this, and I want to make it clear, this is not updated in the law, but it's just something that I see people not being clear on, is that if you are here on a student visa, your time on a student visa does not count towards citizenship. If you are living in Spain, say for 10 years, then you can at that point apply for citizenship through residency. Any time on a student visa does not count towards citizenship, and it also doesn't count towards long-term residency. Now, and this is a little distinction that is often incorrect online, it does count at 50%. The time on a student visa, say 2 years, would count as 1 year at 50% towards what's called EU long-term residency. I'm not going to go into those details now, but effectively it's a different form of long-term residency. But Spain's national long-term residency that many people apply for, your time on a student visa does not count towards that or towards citizenship. Now, another area that I just want to make clear, that if you're coming to, say, do a language course in Spain to learn Spanish, you can't be in Spain on the student visa and do that course 100% online and remotely. So I want to make that clear, because maybe you think you can come on a student visa, do a language course online, and spend your time traveling around the country. the rule is that at least 50% of the course has to be in person. So if you're coming, say to learn Spanish and you're going to be doing it through a language academy in Madrid, at least 50% of the time you'll have to be in the classroom in Madrid. Now, however the language academy organizes that time may leave you obviously long weekends to travel around, but I just want to make that clear because a little nuance that I think is important for people to realize. Okay, let's move into the third topic, and that is family members of Spanish citizens. You guys have a whole new route to move to Spain. Before this new law, if you were the family member of a Spanish citizen, a spouse, child, parent, whatever it may be, there was some confusion about which was the right route for you to take to get residency, to live in Spain. Now there is clarity. Effectively, if you're the family member of a Spanish citizen, you have a route specifically for you to come to Spain and move here. So welcome clarity. So who does this apply to? What family members? Well, the list is actually pretty extensive. I'm gonna read them out. I've got them here in front of me. I don't wanna get anything wrong. Spouse or registered partner of a Spanish citizen, an unmarried partner of a Spanish citizen who can show 1 year of cohabitation, like we talked about with the non-lucrative visa, a child of the Spanish citizen under 26 or over 26 if financially dependent, a parent over 80 or parents under 80 as long as there's proof of financial dependency and showing that they don't have financial support, etc. in their home country. And in some cases, even siblings, nieces, nephews, and even caregivers if cohabitation and financial support can be shown. So pretty extensive list there. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, and this is of particular interest to those who have achieved Spanish citizenship through the grandchildren's law. I've talked about this in my newsletter, the so-called Ley de Nietos. This is whereby effectively if you can show that a parent or grandparent was exiled or left Spain during a specific period in the 20th century, then you could get Spanish citizenship without actually having to come to Spain to get that citizenship. You could get it from overseas. Now, if you have gotten Spanish citizenship through the grandchildren's law, the Ley de Nietos, then your children, including adult children, can get residency to live in Spain. You don't even have to, you as the parent, be living in Spain. So that opens up a lot of options for children of people who have achieved citizenship recently through this law which expires this year. And this is great because again, it gives another route for people to move to Spain. So I just wanted to point that out. And the other aspect of this new law is it's provided multiple different ways for family members of Spanish citizens to apply for residency to live in Spain. So in short, the law lays out 3 different paths. If both you and the Spanish citizen are abroad in your home country, then you can apply via the Spanish consulate in your home country to move to Spain. If the Spanish citizen is in Spain and you are abroad, then the Spanish citizen starts the application in Spain and you finish it off at the consulate. And if you're both in Spain, you can both be in Spain, living in Spain. You can apply from within Spain, which is effectively similar to what I did when I moved to Spain 14 years ago with my wife Yoli. Obviously not under this law because it's new, but I applied for residency already being here. So if that's the case, you can, obviously I always recommend if you're going to use that route, understand all the paperwork requirements before you come, because you're going to have to get paperwork from back home. Come to Spain with the right paperwork, and then you can set up your residency once you're here. Now, just an important point, the option of applying for this residency in Spain, if you're both in Spain, you and the Spanish citizen, only applies to spouses, partners, unmarried partners, children and parents. It doesn't apply to those other cases. They have to apply from abroad. And the last point I'd make about this residency for family members of Spanish citizens is that once your residency is approved, you get a 5-year residency permit, which at that point you can, after 5 years, apply for long-term residency. And also once your residency is approved, you have work permission. You can work in Spain. And in some cases, you may even be able to get provisional work permission while your case is being handled, which is fantastic. So guys, remember, if you're looking at moving to Spain, I send out a weekly newsletter all about moving here, about setting up a life in Spain. You can jump on that at spainrevealed.com/subscribe. I recently sent out a newsletter with all the information about this new law. So if you want to get the latest information from me up to date, then that's the place to go. spainrevealed.com/subscribe. And if you are looking at moving to Spain and you want to cut through all the noise and get some clear structure and a framework on the different areas that you're going to need to understand and take care of to move here successfully and set up your ideal life here, then check out this video. It's an epic guide that I did, almost an hour long. Pour yourself a glass of wine, and it will hopefully help you understand all the moving pieces of moving here and provide some clarity, because there's a lot of noise out there. So anyway, I'll see you over in that video in a moment. And yeah, hope to have you on the newsletter list and provide lots of information about how to move here and set up a great life. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in Spain. Ciao.